you will think that Sue Leo Bancroft's been fiddling with you, but no, not the killer. The hair's your own. He hasn't touched it. He can't take responsibility for that. But anyway, Sue's in to talk about smacking because this week there was an MP called David Lammy and he went into the headlines. Why was he there?
Because last summer's riots on the fact that parents don't smack their children, basically saying, should we bring smacking back? Are our children not disciplined enough? There's been magazines, self-help books and even soap operas tackling the debate, and it certainly gets us talking. So, do you really need to smack to discipline your child?
OK, so Sue, you say no. You say no, but how do you turn your little devils into angels? That is the question, without having to raise your hand.
I'm your one-stop shop for all your parenting problems. I'm an author, a child behavioural expert, and most importantly, I'm a mum of two. I'm here to inspire you, not judge you. I'm a former deputy head teacher, and I'm no pushover. I've been there, done that, and I've got the T-shirt, and I've learned from my mistakes. I've dealt with a lot, from toddler tantrums to teenage strops, and I'm here to empower you with strategies, techniques and tips to show you and teach your kids who's boss.
Oh, Sue, you've probably heard this a million times, but I need you in my life. I have a toddler who's 2.5 who is bonkers. But you say it's all about discipline. Now, that gets bandied around a lot. You say that if you've got discipline, it makes everybody's life easier.
Yes, I do, but actually it starts with you.
OK.
You have to be calm, you have to be clear, you have to be relaxed and positive, and be very specific about what you do want your little one to do. Perhaps have some house rules, that kind of thing, and then reward and praise when they get it right. And this is my easy button that you can, when he does it, or he does something right, you just press, or he does.
That was easy.
So he finds that really funny. Have that.
And
you're dealing with 16-year-olds for this?
Well, I've actually had, you know, my son came home early from a party and went, that was easy, well done. Tidy your bedroom, that was easy. Learn your 7 times table, that was easy.
And they press
What's
it
the
when
reward? Why
they
would
just
they do
find
this?
it funny, and they just think it's relaxing. It's better than a naughty thing, which is a negative thing. This is kind of a positive. I do beat bullying classes, confident classes for kids.
Right.
And you kind of anchor. It's based on, you know, anchoring in positive kind of messages.
You see, the way you're talking here, you know, where they say there's no such thing as bad dogs, only bad owners.
Yeah.
Is that like no such thing as bad children, only bad parents?
Oh, gosh. Well, they're going to be challenging children, aren't they? Because it's their personality. But I really work with the parents, because I think if you're kind of calm, if you're relaxed, if you're positive, you're very clear and very specific about the things you do want. Most of us do it on sort of ad hoc, don't we? We don't actually get a piece of paper and write down actually the house rules to your house, and then the kids can, you know...
But, you see, if you're at Holly's stage and you're Harry's 2.5, right, you see, I can understand reasoning and bribing and setting down rules, but when you're dealing with a 2.5-year-old, surely that's got to be the worst, the most difficult age.
It is hard because I don't know how much he understands, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Well, I suggest pressing another imaginary thing, is a pause button, right? Press your pause button, you relax and you sort of freeze frame the situation, then you step back and ask yourself a better question. What is it he needs, or what is it I need to say, or what does he need to do? And it just detaches you from the situation for a minute. Again, be very specific. And also, you know, a smile is a curve that puts a lot of things straight, doesn't it? Sometimes a little bit of humour, distraction, and then, oh, easy, but you did that right, well done.
OK,
brilliant.
Well, let's talk about some of the major things that parents find really tough. And in at number 1, I would say, is tantrums.
Yes.
And you say that you can deal with tantrums by knowing what will trigger them.
Well, I have on my website kind of like a behaviour diary. It's just a simple thing. But what you do is you download that and you notice the triggers to it. For example, sometimes it can be because they're hungry. So you actually preempt that. You think, oh, it's getting to 12:30. Perhaps give them a banana or a sandwich or whatever it is. And also for children that are older that sometimes go into it, because I used to be a teacher, 4 o'clock is when you pick them up from school and they get niggly and they get kind of grumpy because they're hungry.
Yes.
It's not always hunger, of course not, but it can be hunger, or they can be they're thirsty, or, you know, there's a trigger to it. And if you notice what the patterns might be, you start preempting those patterns.
What do you do with a tantrum when it happens in public? I'm all right at home because I think I can come it, but when it happens and you're out and about, or you're in a restaurant, and they
especially when you're the famous Holly Willoughby.
Yes, I know, this perfect person.
What do you do?
Well, I remember my son, he won't thank me, he's watching this actually at university now, but I remember my son had one in Tesco's in Purley on the floor, just, you know, wanted sweets, and I said, no, you can't have any sweets. And you just sort of leave him there for a few minutes to let him burn it out. I do something actually called tapping, which is an emotional freedom technique which helps reduce the sort of frustration. But usually there's a reason around it, and I would just distract him and say, come on, let's go go and look at this and let's do that, and bring them out of it. But if you're calm, and also another simple thing is to breathe slowly. They start to follow the pattern of your breathing.
That's very good.
So if you start to do that, let them burn it out, and sometimes just hug them.
But say I've got no time to do all that. Say the money's running out in the meter and I've got to get outside, things to do, people to see.
You've been there, done that, haven't you?
Been there, done that. And you've got a lot of people who would be looking at you this morning and saying, that's all very well and good, who's got time for that? And could we not just sort this out with a small, sharp, quick slap on the back of the legs? Now, a lot of people will be saying that. That's the way they will operate.
And what is that message that you're teaching your kids?
You won't do it again, son. That's the
but the message is long-term is, you know, that is, if you're in anger as well, is the dangerous thing. If you lose your temper, then they also learn that's how you handle difficult situations. You lash out. When I was a teacher as well, you know, you see kids that will then suddenly start punching or hitting or doing whatever because they've learnt that at home. And it's, the key word is respect here. There must be other ways that you build up before you would start to do it.
Like
where do you start and where do you stop?
Yeah, better to teach respect than fear.
And I've had a parent that, you know, she said her son was easy to bring up. He was 12, and you know, and the 10-year-old daughter was hard work, and she smacked her, and the kid went, didn't hurt. So then what did she do next? And she was a bit frightened of herself, so she came on a course. But, you know, there's lots of things you can do before you get to that point,
What would you do? Jane from Hampshire says, she's emailed us in, hi Jane. Jane says, I have a 2-year-old who started swearing. My family say to ignore him. But then I scold him for it. I would say he's getting very confused at the moment. Different disciplines. It's a very disrespectful thing to swear, and he's left me red-faced many times.
Well, again, it's about being clear about what is and isn't acceptable to you. And if it's not acceptable to you, and, you know, it can be a phase, we know that he's picked it up somewhere from an older brother or sister or somewhere he's heard it on the telly or something, I don't know. And sometimes you can ignore it. But if it really is something that bothers you, then, you know, this is the job of the parent to teach your children your values and say to him, you know, that's not a good word. I don't want you using that word again, and then move on to something else. And, you know, each time he said, I don't want you using that word, and then move on to something else. Because you need to, not train, but you have to keep practising something with a child.
See, if Harry knows something gets to me, he'll do it even more. Yeah,
well, that's it, because he's getting the attention that he wants from you. So that's when it's to try and give him the positive attention. Also, mums, I work with a lot of mums that suffer guilt. So if they're working mums, they feel very guilty and they overcompensate and they don't discipline. So you get calm and centred and relaxed and don't feed that.
These rules that can they work with adults as well? Because Ruth's exactly like Harry. When she does something that annoys me, she'll do it more and more.
Yeah, well, people do, don't they?
So those rules will apply all throughout life then, too?
I suppose so, yeah. And life is all about controlling yourself. You can't change another person. With a child, you can mould them, train them, teach them. That's your job. You're there to be their adult and their parent, not their friend. And you have to teach them these things so that over time, Harry and children like that will also learn their own self-discipline and their own inner controls. But you have to put that in first, the boundaries.
We've got so much to discuss and not any time to do it. So you're going to have to come back because we need to discuss bedtime as well, because that's a whole other area.
So common.
So
homework is another one.
Yes, well, we must definitely do this again.
Don't get me there.